Aladdin, 1992 animated film made by Disney Studios. So the live action remake is out in cinemas now, and I am planning to go and see it. But before I do so, I decided to revisit the original to have a frame of reference and something to compare it to. Now, the last time I saw it was when I was a small kid, so a few factors would come into play this time around. First of all, I'm an adult, so I'd probably view it differently. And then the last time I saw it, I also saw the Polish dubbed version, and now I would go for the original voices. So, two words about the story itself. For those of you who don't know it, Aladdin is a small-time thief living on the streets of Agrabah. And Jasmine is this princess who is supposed to get married soon, but she keeps rejecting all of those candidates because she wants to marry out of love. In the meantime, Jafar, the royal vizier, he's plotting to overthrow the sultan and to take the throne and the princess for himself. And in order to do that, he first needs to obtain the magical lamp that houses a genie. That genie will make the vizier's wishes come true. So he brings Aladdin into his plot and uses him to get to the lamp. And then things happen, and of course, as can be predicted, the boy himself ends up with the lamp. So it's a straightforward story with themes of staying true to yourself and who you are and following your heart, but also about freedom, surprisingly enough. And that goes both for Jasmine and the character of Genie. And I was surprised to find that the movie worked quite well in this regard for me, even as an adult. Now, admittedly, I am a fan of traditional hand-drawn animation, and I think it's a tragedy that it's almost disappeared by now from modern Western animated films, especially Disney and Pixar. And Aladdin is a very good example of what we're losing, really, because the characters here are animated in a vibrant, lively way against those 2D, beautiful hand-drawn backgrounds, often with imposing and majestic scenery like Agrabah, the city, and the palace, the Cave of Wonders where the lamp is housed, and the desert at night. Then there's also the songs, which I absolutely loved, and especially the musical numbers done by the Genie. And speaking of the Genie, this is really the character that elevates the movie and makes it much, much better. He's played by the late Robin Williams. And if you've seen any of his movies or stand-up shows, you know that he's always had this kind of explosive energy, unbelievable amounts of those explosive energy about him. He would just run around the place, shout stuff, be this unstoppable electric presence. And this really shows into the Genie character. He really brings it into the animated performance. And I read some of the behind the scenes stories about the movie's development, and apparently the creators just put Williams in the sound recording booth and let him go wild with the script. So he would just improvise and ramble about random stuff. And then they would animate the character around his performance. And that also really shows, because Genie is clearly the best part of the film, not just in terms of the voice, but also visually speaking. And that's really what worries me the most about the upcoming remake, because I just cannot imagine how in the world can anyone, and let alone in the case of the remake Will Smith, who I'm not the biggest fan of, even come close to the same kind of color and joy that Williams brought to the screen. And I guess I'll just find that out in a couple of days. But for now, the good news is that regardless of the quality of the new film, you can always just go back and revisit the original.